Ever lost a button and didn't know how to sew it back on? Today, we're taking a close look at this common fashion dilemma. We'll be unraveling the art of sewing a button, a skill that's both practical and empowering. We will walk you through the whole process, from selecting your tools and button to threading your needle and securing that button firmly in place. Along the way, we'll also address potential hazards to keep you safe and confident. So, are you ready to become a button sewing expert? Let's dive in. First things first, let's gather our tools. To craft a well-sewn button, you'll need a sewing needle. The needle should be of an appropriate thickness and length, chosen with the fabric of the garment and the size of the button in mind. Next, you'll need sewing threads. Choose threads that match the color of your garment and button, and ensure the thickness is suitable too. The importance of color coordination in your threads cannot be overstated. It's what keeps your sewing work discreet and your garment looking its best. Then comes the star of our show, the button. Choose a button that not only matches the style and color of your garment, but also serves its function well. Finally, you'll need a thread cutter. This could be a knife or a pair of scissors. This tool is used to cut the thread after you've successfully sewn on your button. With these tools at the ready, you're set for success. Now that we have our tools, it's time to choose our button and location. Selecting the right button is more than just aesthetics. It's about functionality too. Consider the size, color, and style of your button, ensuring it complements the garment and serves its purpose effectively. Whether it's a simple round button for your shirt or a decorative one for your coat, the choice is yours. Now, onto the location. This isn't just about where the button looks good, but where it will withstand the trials of daily wear and tear. Typically, buttons are placed along the edge of an opening in the garment, but it varies based on the garment's design. Make sure to choose a spot that's sturdy and can handle the tension when the button is used. Remember, the right button and location can make or break the functionality and style of your garment. With the right button and location, we're off to a great start. Next, we're going to prepare our thread and needle. This step is vital to a successful sewing project, so let's get it right. Start by selecting a length of thread that's no longer than your arm. This size ensures you can manage the thread easily, reducing the chance of tangles. Once you have your thread, it's time to thread the needle. Now, threading a needle can be a bit fiddly, especially if you're new to sewing, so take your time. Push the end of the thread through the eye of the needle. If you're struggling, try giving the end of your thread a quick trim to get a clean edge. Once you've successfully threaded your needle, it's time to tie a knot. This knot is essential as it stops the thread from slipping through the fabric. To tie your knot, simply make a loop at the end of your thread and pull the end through. With our needle and thread prepared, we're ready to start sewing. Let's move on to preparing our button and piercing the fabric. After you've got your button and sewing location figured out, it's time to get that button ready. Position the button on the fabric where you want it to be. Now, take your threaded needle and push it through one of the holes in the button. This can be from the top or bottom of the garment, depending on the style and your personal preference. Now, let's pierce the fabric. You'll want to insert the needle through the fabric from the back or front, again, according to your preference. The point of insertion should be where you want the center of the button to be. Remember, this step requires patience. You want to make sure the button is precisely where you want it and that the needle goes cleanly through the fabric to ensure a secure fit. Our button is in place and ready to be sewn on. Now, we're ready to sew our button. First, we need to push our needle through the fabric from the back, where we want the center of the button to be. This is where we're going to secure the button in place. What's next? Well, we need to thread the needle through one of the holes in the button. The starting point can be either from the top or the bottom of the garment, depending on the style you're going for. Now, we're going to insert the needle back through the opposite hole in the button and the fabric. Repeat this process a few times. This will ensure that the button is securely sewn onto the garment. You might be wondering, what pattern should I be following for this? Well, the answer is, it's up to you. You can either create an X or an H shape with the thread. The X shape is more common, but the H shape can provide extra strength if needed. Continue this process until you're satisfied with the strength of the button. Remember, the more times you pass the thread through the fabric and the button holes, the stronger the attachment will be. But wait, Don't rush to cut off the thread just yet. We need to anchor the threads to the back of the garment. So pull the needle through to the back of the fabric, but don't push it back through to the front. Instead, loop the thread around the stitches you've just made. Then push the needle through this loop to create a knot. You may want to repeat this a couple of times to ensure the threads are secure and won't unravel. Finally, pull the thread tight and cut off the excess, leaving a small tail to anchor the knot securely. And voila, you've successfully sewn on a button. Remember, the key to a well-sewn button is patience and precision. Practice makes perfect, and soon you'll be sewing buttons like a pro. And just like that, our button is securely sewn on. Almost done! Now we need to anchor our threads and check the button's strength. Anchoring the threads involves tying them to the back of the garment. This is where our button's security really comes into play. You've done all the hard work, so let's make sure it's not all for naught. Think of the anchoring process as the final seal on your button's fate. It's the last line of defense against an unruly button, eager to break free from the confines of your garment. To start, you'll want to make a few knots on the back side of the fabric, right where your thread ends. This is to ensure the threads are secure and won't unravel at the slightest tug. Once your threads are anchored, it's time for the moment of truth. It's time to test the button's strength. Consider this the final exam, where your button either passes or fails. Apply a bit of pressure and give your button a good, firm tug. This is not the time to be gentle. We want to ensure that the button is sewn on securely and can withstand the rigors of everyday use. If the button stays put, congratulations, you've done an excellent job. If it wobbles or comes off, no worries. Just take a deep breath, pick up your needle and thread and give it another go. Our button is now secure and ready for use. It's a testament to your patience, precision, and care. Well done. Finally, we're going to cut our thread and wrap things up. After you've secured your button with several firm knots, it's time to take your thread cutter, be it a knife or a pair of scissors, and snip off the excess thread. Make sure to leave a small tail to anchor the knot securely. This step, while seemingly simple, is crucial in ensuring the longevity of your newly attached button. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've covered. We started by selecting a suitable button and deciding on the perfect place to sew it. We then prepared our thread and needle, threading the needle and tying a knot at the end to avoid any slip-ups. Next, we placed the button on the garment, piercing the fabric with our needle, and started the sewing process. We created a pattern through the buttonholes, either in an X or H shape, and ensured the button was securely fastened by testing its strength. We also took a moment to consider potential hazards, including needle injuries and the consequences of improper sewing or choosing an inappropriate place for the button. It's important to remember that sewing on a button requires patience, precision, and care. Congratulations, you've successfully sewn on a button. Remember, practice makes perfect. With every button you sew, you'll become more adept at this valuable skill. So keep threading, keep sewing, and most importantly, keep creating.